Alabama is about to execute a 75-year-old man this Thursday who never killed anyone, and prosecutors don't even dispute that. His name is Charles Sonny Burton. He's been in prison for decades, and unless the governor plans to intervene, Alabama plans to execute this man on Thursday. Here's the part that has people outraged all across the internet and across the entire country as well. Burton was convicted under something called a felony murder law. Stay with me though. A rule that allows anyone to be charged with murder even if they didn't actually kill anybody. That legal doctrine allows for prosecutors to charge anybody that was even involved in a situation that led to a killing, such as a robbery or anything as such. They will be charged with that same exact crime. And that's what Charles was charged with because one of his friends, the Bruce, I think he goes by, was the one who actually committed the murder during a robbery that Charles was involved in. Charles admit to going into the store with a gun, but he never killed anybody. He just robbed it. His friend, on the other hand, did kill somebody. Legal experts say thousands of people have been convicted in the United States using that same exact law. Now, Burton's case is becoming one of the most controversial executions in years. So the question is this: should someone be put to death over the murder not caused by them directly, but they were there?
Sonny Burton did not pull the trigger that killed Doug Battle in 1991. He didn't tell anyone to fire the shot, nor was he in the building when it happened. But Alabama is days away from executing him, even as the shooter and his other co-defendants ultimately received life sentences. On August 16, 1991, Charles Lee Burton, commonly known as Sonny, along with 5 other men, robbed a Talladega AutoZone store. During the robbery, a customer, Doug Battle, was shot and killed by Derek DeBruce. But under Alabama's felony murder law, any accomplice to a crime where someone is killed, even non-shooters, can face the death penalty. Both Burton and DeBruce were sentenced to death, but DeBruce was later resentenced to life without parole after winning a federal appeal. Now, only Sonny remains on death row. He's scheduled to be executed by nitrogen hypoxia, a method of capital punishment where you inhale pure nitrogen gas that deprives you of oxygen. Sonny, who is 75 years old and in poor health, is asking for clemency, which would allow him to live out the rest of his days in prison. His call for clemency is growing and gaining national attention. And most notably, the victim's daughter, Tori Battle, wrote to Governor Ivey asking her not to execute Sonny. In an op-ed, she said her voice should matter as a victim's family member. But as of last week, Governor Ivey's office said she has no plans to grant Sonny clemency.
When the governor set me a date for March the 12th, I was sad and disappointed. I like to believe that she wasn't aware that March 12th was Ramadan. I like to believe that she just didn't do that out of spite, you know. I believe the governor herself, when she read my declaration, she'll see that a miscarriage of justice has been done.
Sonny's attorneys have noted that governors in other pro-death penalty states, including Oklahoma and Texas, have recently commuted sentences in similar cases. In a recent interview, Sonny told me it would make him and his family so happy to be granted clemency and would allow him to spend the rest of his days reaching out to young people so that they don't make the same mistakes that he did.
Charles Burton, or Sonny, will be executed by the state of Alabama in 2 days on March 12th if Governor Kay Ivey does not grant him clemency. Charles never killed anyone. This has never been a question. Charles is on death row because of a felony murder conviction. This means that he was involved in a felony, in his case, a robbery that led to the death of someone. His co-defendant, the person who did the actual murder, was originally given a death sentence and that was later reduced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Charles is not asking to be released. He is simply asking for the same, to spend the rest of his life in prison rather than be executed. Charles is 75 years old. He is confined to a wheelchair. He has to wear a helmet because he's a fall risk. The victim's family does not want to see him executed. Jurors do not want to see him executed. Beyond that, arbitrary imposition and application of the death penalty is unconstitutional, and Charles' case very much so fits the definition of being arbitrary. I know it's easy to feel helpless in a world that is being set on fire by the United States, but Charles not being executed is something that is achievable. People can call Governor Kay Ivey, they can fax her, they can reach out to her on social media and tell her that they do not think that Charles Burton should be executed.
Breaking news, Governor Kay Ivey has commuted the death sentence of Sonny Burton. He was convicted in the 1991 death of a man in a gas station robbery. Sonny Burton was involved in the robbery, but he did not actually pull the trigger, killed Doug Battle. He has been in prison for about 30 years at this point, and was set to die on Thursday. We were planning to cover the execution. Now that is not happening. He is resentenced to life without parole in the prison system. This is Kay Ivy's second commutation. Two very unusual cases, unusual circumstances, after a lot of pressure from advocacy organizations.
A man is scheduled for execution on March 12th. Here's how you can save his life. For more than 30 years, Sonny Burton has sat on Alabama's death row for a murder he did not commit and did not order. He wasn't even inside the building when the shooting happened, and he never fired a weapon. Additionally, the identity of the triggerman was never in dispute. Derek DeBruce fired the gun. Both men were originally sentenced to death. However, on appeal, the state reduced DeBruce's sentence to life without parole. The man who pulled the trigger will live. The man who did not is condemned to die. Even Alabama has acknowledged that Sonny's sentence is arguably unjust, yet it still pursues execution. This is not about relitigating guilt or innocence. It is about fairness and proportionality. 27 states allow for the execution of non-triggermen. These are people who are associated with a felony in which someone died, even if they did not kill. Alabama is one of those states, and Sonny is one of these men. Along with Alabama acknowledging that he didn't kill anyone, that he wasn't in the building, that he didn't even fire a weapon, Sonny's case was also marked by serious legal failures, including his former counsel's failure to present critical mitigating evidence. And now, with all the appeals exhausted, clemency is the only path remaining forward. If the execution does proceed, Alabama is planning to use nitrogen hypoxia. Sonny is in rapidly deteriorating health. He's confined to a wheelchair, and he lives every day not knowing when the state will take his life. So here's where you come in. Please sign the petition. You can go to our bio and sign it, and you can go to Sonny's page. Go to Sonny's page and follow him, interact, make your own videos to raise awareness. Please support his clemency campaign, demand justice, demand fairness, and raise awareness before it's too late.
Give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause. If you've been advocating for Charles Burton, his sentence has been commuted. He has escaped the death sentence. Thank you.
Alabama, we can't do this. We do not go against the wishes of the family. And the family does not want Charles Sonny Burton executed. You've done it before. Let's not do it again. If you're not familiar with this case, this is Charles Sonny Burton, 75 years old, currently confined to a wheelchair and in poor health. And in 1991, he was one of 6 people involved in a robbery in an auto zone. Sonny had already left the auto zone when one of the people who was robbing the place with him ended up taking the life of a customer, Doug Battle. The man who took the life of Doug Battle, Derek DeBruce, his sentence was actually commuted to life in prison, and he ends up passing away in 2020, and it's over for him. But Sonny here, who was not the man who took the life of Doug Battles in that AutoZone in 1991, is scheduled to be executed by the state of Alabama on March the 12th. And we shouldn't do that. Yes, there is a law in the state of Alabama that says if you're a participant in a felony and someone ends up getting hurt or losing your life, even if you are not the person who does it, you are just as guilty as the person who does it because you participated in this crime. But we don't go against the wishes of the family, and Doug Battle's family, his daughter, wants the sentence commuted to life in prison. The 6 remaining living jurors want the sentence commuted to life in prison. What is the point of executing this man on March the 12th? He wasn't even inside of the AutoZone. You have heard me talk many times. I am a supporter of the DP in certain situations, not in this situation. He's 75 years old. He's in a wheelchair. It's going to happen eventually, okay? He's running out of time. How about we save taxpayer dollars and just let the Lord handle it in the end, okay? So anyways, guys, I'm going to keep you updated on what's happening in this case. So far, Governor Kay Ivey says that she is not going to do anything to halt this execution. I hope she does. Anyways, guys, hope you have a blessed day. Bye.
On March 12th, the state of Alabama plans to execute and suffocate Sonny Burton. a 75-year-old wheelchair-bound grandfather and father who did not murder anyone. In 1991, Sonny was charged for his involvement in a robbery that led to Doug Battle's death. But Sonny was not the triggerman, and he was not even in the building when Doug Battle was shot. The man who actually murdered Doug Battle had his sentence reduced to life in prison without parole, yet Sonny remains on death row. In 2025, Tori Battle, the victim's daughter, spoke with the Attorney General's office and told them that she opposed the execution of Sonny. Alabama is the state with the worst record of botched executions. In 2024, they executed Kenneth Smith via nitrogen gas. It took 22 minutes for him to stop breathing. The UN Human Rights Office have also expressed serious concerns about executing people via nitrogen gas. It is so cruel and induces such panic that this method is not even used on animals. UN Human Rights Office also notes that executing people via nitrogen gas could violate U.S. treaty obligations prohibiting torture, and that the state of Alabama doesn't even administer a sedative ahead of the administration of the nitrogen gas. Sonny deserves better. Sonny deserves life. Sonny didn't kill anyone. And we can make a difference. We can call Governor Ivey every single day until March 12th and demand that she grant clemency for Sonny. You can also write physical letters. You can sign an online petition. Help save Sonny Burton's life and abolish the death penalty and prison industrial complex.
This man is about to be executed for someone else's crime. And no, they haven't got the wrong guy. That's just the law in Alabama. It's called felony murder, which essentially says if you partake in a felony crime like a robbery and it results in a murder, even if you don't do the killing, you get the same punishment. And that is where 75-year-old Charles Burton comes in. He's been on death row for over 30 years despite the fact he never killed anyone. But he will be killed on Thursday this week for a robbery that he carried out with 5 other men in 1991. Reports state that while he was attempting to loot a safe in an auto store, one of Charles's accomplices shot and killed a customer. And although he admitted to entering the store, he claimed that he already left the building when the murder took place. But that's not even the craziest part, because the man who actually shot the victim, Derek DeBruce, he's actually had his sentence reduced to life imprisonment. And this is despite many of the jurors who actually voted to end his life all those years ago. They have since come forward saying that they regret their decision, with 6 of them signing affidavits asking for the courts to show Charles mercy. But what do you guys think? Is this a fair law that deters involvement in criminal activity, or one that is outdated and needs to be amended?
So guys, in today's video, we will talk about Charles Sonny Burton, this young man that Americans have come out to, speak on behalf of the family and himself, because he was going to face a death sentence this coming Thursday. So listen guys, let's talk about this story, because it's very strange. It's also intriguing, and you'll be like, is there really justice in this world? So many years ago, it was on a night, by the way, it was during the night, and there was this robbery that happened, and in that robbery someone was unalived. Of course, a family grieved, a family was in pain, and unfortunately Sonny Burton was there. So many people say that he never actually fired or pulled the trigger. So even after so many witnesses said that, he still faced the harshest punishment, and that is death sentence. After so many years that passed by really, really slowly, the prison was still holding him, and according to what he said is that in him hope faded away. So in the internet, after he came out and spoke his part of the story, so many Americans started asking themselves, like, is this justice? Is this really fair? Because he never pulled the trigger, never fired the shot. He was part of the team, but now he went outside and someone else pulled the trigger. Why is he facing a death sentence if he never pulled out the trigger? So many people have come out to speak about this story. And of course, some people began raising concerns about this story. You could hear some saying that this Sonny's story feels so wrong and it needs to be looked at carefully over and over. Others who are like, this is law. I mean, law is law. It needs to be executed as it has been stated. And that was their opinion. But of course, we are humans, and such stories, they become deep. Not just political, not just socially, very deep. So, on this side, we have one man meeting. We have, on the other side, we have one family that is watching. And on the other side of the world, we have the people that are keen to know, like, what is happening, what will happen, outcomes that is unfair, that, justice should be served. So, when so many Americans came out and spoke their heart out, the leadership listened. And of course, the case was revealed finally. At this point, Americans are holding their breath because they're wondering, like, what will happen, what will really happen. Others had even started a countdown to Thursday, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days. Oh man, that's so tough. Finally, we get some good news just some few hours ago that the execution has been stopped. I mean, it's so soothing. I mean, you will just feel some kind of relief that at least our voices were heard. So, as we speak today, 10th of March 2026, Sonny Burton won't be executed again. The case has been reviewed and the sentence has been changed, which is good. So, as much as most people are relieved, some are kind of conflicted, thoughtful, wondering, like, how law is law, law should be followed, Anyway, our life was lost. It was sad. And then you have this another life that is waiting. And then you have two families hurting. I mean, what would you have solved at the end of the day? Nothing, right? So, what I've learned from this story of Sonny Burton is that justice needs wisdom, and also justice needs humanity. As we speak, Americans are still talking about Sonny Burton. And as much as it's a very complicated story, yeah, we just wish that, the right person be put in the judgment space. And also, the case should be fair anyway. Thank you so much. If you watched the clip up to this point, I do appreciate your presence. I'll see you in the next video.